Okay, I think we're live. At least I hope so. So, welcome to, I guess this is part three of building a library of some sort, so like a public library software. And again, say hi, Sindra.
Hi, Sindre.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
So, let's dive into a little bit, maybe quick little recap of what we did last time. Just to remind everyone, if you were looking at this, what we were, well, first of all, um, one of the things that I struggled with the last time was to get the whole paging thing working. And after the stream last time, I just hooked it up. And as you can see here, you can actually now see back and forth. And the point was that the implementation of the query doesn't really need to think about at all the paging. This is done cross-cuttingly, automatically. And in the front end, you basically like we're using Prime React here. We just hook up the data table and we say, well, hook up the paginator for it. And we basically just hook up the different things to set the page. And the query itself is from the proxy that gets generated. There is a hook called use with paging, where you can then say the page size, and the hook returns a tuple with, amongst other things, a set page function that you can call. So that's basically it for that whole thing. Another thing that has happened since the last time we did this is on the previous stream, we looked into using a pattern called MVVM, Model View View Model, something that Cratis application model supports out of the box. Uh, what we've done in the meantime is actually add a little bit more support for a non-MVVM, which kind of lends itself very nicely when you look at kind of the sliced architecture that we have here. We basically have very focused, small little uh, kind of slices going on with features, feature-focused slices. And the complexity of, well, MVVM can be more complex and maybe not needed for those scenarios. So one of the things that is now supported is like if you go to the authors TSX, where we have a dialogue we want to pop up when we add an author. So I'll show you the dialogue. This is the dialogue, add author a dialogue. Uh, Instead of having that as a MVVM kind of thing, what we now have is a way of doing this in the same way with a non-MVVM. So you can basically do a use dialog, and this is a hook that comes with the application model that returns the actual, so it returns a wrapper basically for the component that you say. So use this dialog, add author, and it returns a wrapper dialog, and it will do all the showing and not and closing and all that stuff for you automatically. And all you also it returns a function for showing the dialogue. And what is different maybe from this solution to other solutions is that it leverages the async await, the promise model. So a dialogue can actually return a response if it needs to, and that response is then something that you can actually await. And it returns, as you can see from the when I hover this, you can see the IntelliSense saying it returns a promise of dialogue response. So if you look at the response from that, it's actually a dialogue response is defined as a tuple, and response in itself is actually the type of dialogue result. So if you do a result here and a response, so let's say you have a specific type that it returns, you can also return data with the dialogue response. So result being a dialogue result, so the dialogue can then be uh, actually like okay, yes, no, or canceled kind of thing, you can then pick up whether or not the dialogue is communicating back, well, if it's successful doing whatever it's supposed to be doing. And the implementation of the dialogue is very, very simple. It's just basically a component, like we're using the dialogue component from a primary act here, but it has this dialogue context that you can go get, which will give you the current dialogue context, and you can call the closed dialogue. Right. So all of this is documented on our what's it called? The page here. So you'll go to application model and you'll see under front end and React, you'll find dialogues and it explains all of this stuff for you, basically. So that is kind of where we left it, I guess, right? So we hooked up all the front end and we hooked up, we have a feature. If we take a look at the Miro, we basically have our register author, which is okay. That is the author dialog that we just showed, and the command for registering an author and author register event coming out. We create a author read model, which we use in this listing slice. And what we haven't covered is the specifications for this. So let's say like a given when then scenario, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's something for us to dive into.
Yes. Let's do that.
Cool, cool. Let's see. So let me go to the right place. So what we have in addition to the implementation project, we have a specifications project. The specification project is set up with a few things. So it has a couple of, well, first of all, we have a thing called in the Cratis organization on GitHub, we have a project called specifications. And there is one for XUnit and one for NUnit. We're using XUnit in this project. And in addition to that, so specifications gives you basically just small little wrappers for working with something that is specification by example type of BDD, behavior-driven development. And on top of that, we have specific helpers for working with Chronicle. So if we want to test specific things in Chronicle, if you want to test your aggregates or things like this, there's support for that in the XUnit for Chronicle. And then there is a integration version, so for integration testing. The integration tests will automatically actually run Chronicle using test containers in the background. So it will automatically spin up Chronicle with, well, the container for Chronicle, and you can start actually doing proper integration testing. And I think that is something that we could do right now. Right. So
Yes.
one thing, if we take a look at what we have for something for testing, if we look at the features we have this registration feature, and the registration feature has the register author, and it produces the author registered event. What we have in addition is this constraint saying unique author name. This unique author name says constraint says that they're based on the events that represents, well, anything related to the name of the author. In our case, the only event we have for that is author registered. When it produces an author registered event, we look at the name and we say, well, that needs to be unique. So we're basically defining here a constraint saying we want a unique index in a way for the name, and we get it from the author registered event. This can be multiple events, but we only have one event right now. And then we produce a message saying author name must be unique. So that's something that we can easily test for and create a specification for that actually gives us a context. Let's say we want to specify that, well, if we register an author and we try to register the same author with the same name, that will fail, right? So that's definitely something that we can quite easily do. So let me take a look at how we can do that. So following the features and the structure we have here, so we can reproduce the same structure. So in our specification projects, we can do features, and we can do authors like this. And we can then go and say, let's say we create like a context. So we say, or for a scenario for the author registration, or actually just registration, because that's what it's called, right? So for registration, what we can then do inside, so if we look at registration, we have this register author. So when registering, that's the given. So given when we're registering, we can then create a folder called when registering. And we can then say, so typically we would like to create a scenario for happy path, and we would also like to create a scenario for when it's failing. So let's start with a failing scenario right now. And what I would then do is actually create two different classes for this. I would create one that's specific to this failure scenario, and one for the other scenario. So my suggestion, Sindre, is to create something that says when registering, and then a file called and there, oh my God, and there already exists one with same name, for
Yep.
instance. Make sense?
Yeah.
Good. So the namespace will be library dot features, actually authors, I mean, and then registration, right? That's the base. And then we do for actually for registration when registering like this.
Yeah. And so this style is not really common if you're used to traditional .NET development with XUnit. You'll probably see it will probably be a whole lot different from what we're doing right now in terms of structure and naming.
Yeah, definitely. So what we're trying to get to is basically a given um, when then, right? So what that basically means, so given an author is with name is, well, given author with something as name registered when a new author with the same name is registered, then well, constraint violation is raised. Kind of. That's where we're trying to get to, right? So uh, yes, and what Sindre is doing now is, since we're doing integration tests like this, we normally we could be, well, we need to reuse a context, because it's so expensive to actually start and stop containers. So what we want to do is reuse context, and we're basically just doing something for for doing just that. And in XUnit, you have this concept of collections that you can use. You have these global collections. What we have done is basically create a global collection. Well, it's named here. This is a constraint of XUnit where you actually have the collection fixture and the name of it here. But as you can see, the collection fixture is actually pointing to a Chronicle out of process fixture, which is coming from Chronicle XUnit package, NuGet package. And with this, that will automatically set up the test containers and set up everything that is needed. It will also give you a few kind of helpers for you to actually work through this. And if you look at, so what we're also doing here is we're creating a context within this is basically how we've chosen to construct this because we want to have the context close to where we're actually working here. So we're establishing a context locally here. And normally we could also go and create reusable context. Right now we only have this one thing that we want to do. And we're basically using this base context. So we're given a client, and this client is just it's basically a HTTP client that enables us to call and do the same call that we would do from the front end for the command that we want to issue, basically. So what we can now do is what Sindra has done is basically set up, and this is coming from our, it's part of the Cratis specifications, where this concept of establish and because and destroy. These methods will automatically by, well, convention by their name, be automatically called for this. So establish is the thing that establishes the content.
We probably, yeah, we will want to do that actually, since we want to test the case where we already have an existing author registered. So that we would typically do in the establish phase.
Yeah. So what we can then do is from one of the things that we get from the shared context that we're getting from Chronicle is the event store. And on the event store, we can actually go and now do on the event log, we can do append. So we can do something like this and author registered like so, not result, but so. So that's the established, that's the context that we want to be in. We want to have an event which is the author registered event with this author specifically actually already registered. For this particular test, we don't need the destroy, so I'm just going to remove that. And we can then start adding a fact. So while Sindra is actually setting up the call to do the command, we could now be saying something like this. So it should not be successful, and the context result is success should be false, like so.
Yeah, whoops, copy that. And here we can also have a result. So do we have a result from that? No, we're not getting any result.
Like that, yes. There you
Yeah,
go.
so we can just do it like this.
And we need to pass the context. So what we get here is, this is something that we need to do for XUnit. So basically, not Chronicle auto process. Sometimes AI gets too eager, but collection and then name. And we need to pass it down to the base class so that it all gets the correct context. And this looks a little bit weird because what we have is basically the inner class here, being the context that we want to actually
Yeah.
pass down all the way. We've just kind of wrapped all of this up to make it convenient for us to do this and yeah, and not be out of context. Haha, pun intended. So hopefully this should fail.
Yeah, and we have not cheated, so this is exciting.
Yes.
So now you're actually running the Chronicle kernel in a Docker container with the MongoDB as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're establishing a client that connects to the Chronicle kernel that gets it spun up in a container, and it will be in a clean state for each test run.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. So that actually worked fine. It worked exactly as we hoped. I noticed something that I think we need to take a look at, and that is when we have a Docker container already running, it actually runs a little bit slower for some reason.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's just slow. Who knows? So that is the actually not happy path, right? So what we could do now is create another one of these that says the happy path. And so no authors. So if we just move that to its own file, so now you're going to see the benefit of the structure already, because now you can actually start reading this. So for registration, when registering, and there already exists one with the same name, and then there's a second thing saying, and there are no authors. So what we can then basically do is just take out the established, because if we don't have anything there, it will just be not have any events, right? So success should now be true for this scenario. Let's see.
No, there is an error where this is a
Yes.
bit annoying thing
Yes.
with how we do it with the context. So it doesn't automatically change that reference. So we'll have to remember it
Yeah. So I
to
need to
change it.
do that again. And this is yeah. So if anyone has any idea of how to make this even smoother, please give us a shout out. Uh, that would be nice. But yes, I guess my machine has enough on its plate right now because it's a little bit slower than I would have hoped for. Uh, but it's actually saying that it's returning true. Hmm. Now that makes me want to debug this. Interesting. Let's see what the debugger says. That's funny. The happy path fails while the not so happy path succeeds. Makes me wonder. Say, all right, right. Yeah, I think I know what's.
Validation result.
Yeah, I think I know what's actually going on. And this is related to what I actually mentioned. It seems like it's actually reusing the data from whatever I had running. So this is something that we need to have a bit of a look at. I saw this earlier today as well.
Hmm. That's weird.
Yeah, so it might be how we define the container. I don't know what's going on. Although that seemed very unlikely in a way.
Yeah. It spins up a Mongo with Chronicle latest development, which is the kernel and the MongoDB. We're not mounting a volume or anything.
No, it shouldn't be. Okay, that's strange. That means so what we can then do is actually well, this is live coding, so I guess what we can do is go to the event log and we can actually get let's just debug this. So we can go and get some events. So let's say we do event sequence number first, right? And
We,
that's actually the wrong.
we should also maybe we can also verify it by having oh yeah, you're doing that. You're adding more assertions, right? To check the number of events after doing the because.
We could do that. What I was just thinking from a debugging perspective, just see are there really events before we do the register.
Yeah, yeah.
That was kind of this. I guess is it's good to actually show this as well because there are APIs for a lot of these scenarios where you can actually go in and get data directly from the event log like this and get data directly from the running instance of Chronicle, which can be very useful debugging like this. So there is an event. So yes, and it's called John Doe. I don't know where it's
Hmm.
coming from. That is spooky.
All right. Can you make sure that after the test is ran that you don't have the Docker container running or anything? It,
There is something running. I think this is the culprit.
kill it.
So yeah, this is the so something is that's what exactly what I saw earlier today. Docker with Docker. That's cool. Okay, so now we don't have anything. And if I stop that, so I think that will actually do it. Uh, that's probably it. If
Or did you
my
have the backend running?
I had the backend running and I had a Docker, and now it runs much faster as well. That was exactly what I saw this earlier today. So yeah, we had both the Docker and the backend and everything running. So that's of course doesn't
Okay,
help.
so yeah, maybe we should have configured the test to go on another port or something for the Chronicle.
Yeah, I think that is actually the solution. Much easier.
Yeah,
Okay, but we got to actually write two specifications, right? So we got two specs that describes a happy path and then one that is not so happy. Um,
and is it? Did you try running the test now?
yeah, and it's green now, so it's
Yeah. So we should add more. I was thinking. So for this scenario, we should. We should check that it. What are we calling it? Apply. Should apply author registered event, right?
or append.
Yeah, it should append. Yeah, append is better. And we have some extension methods for doing that. Um, uh, how did we should have appended event?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're right.
Mm, I don't remember how our API works. Um, or yeah, we can
Oh,
have a sequence number and event source ID. We don't really know the event source ID.
we can know if we. One of the things that we can do, we can change the API a little bit. So we can go back to the API and let it return the
Yeah, retrieve the
ID.
ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So
So
if we do that, I
yeah,
can do that, and basically author ID, and then like this, and we can get that from the response. So
yeah, and then we can do it like this, I think. Um, or
no, that's the
no, I
so
thought
command. Let me see. So execute command. Yeah, you need both. So you need both the register author and GUID, and then you can do result, basically context result, and then response, isn't it?
yeah.
At least I was hoping for that. Yeah, of course, and then yeah, like that, and then do a toString, or no, that will automatically convert it. So should have a appended event, event sequence number, da da da, and you can check the name. Yeah, so you can assert on the name being.
Um, oh yeah, yeah. We should do like this.
Context of the author.
Like this. No?
No, it's actually context
Oh
like
yeah.
this, and then well, context with a minor small c, and you write
No.
value like that. Yes, now it's fine.
Okay.
Now I'm curious if that works. Mm, let's see what it says. Yes, green, green, green.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, we kind of one. So one more thing is that we should check that it only appended one event. How do we want to do that?
So we can get that actually. Hang on, let me see. We have this.
Well, there are multiple ways of doing it, depending on how, yeah, semantics. But we can do like get tail sequence number.
Yeah,
Um,
we could actually just then use the extension method should have tail sequence number. So
oh
basically you
wait, do
can,
we have that?
yeah. So you can actually do on the fixture. So you can do context should have tail sequence number, and then
0.
yeah, or yeah. So if you're not comfortable like me with all these magical numbers,
Yeah.
you can do this.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see what that does. Please. We should now have three green tests. And we do. We
And
have.
and then now the cool thing is that we can actually copy those assertions, those facts to the other one. It will be just as valuable.
Yeah.
Oh, it's think yeah. I think I need your since you the ID is running on your computer.
Yeah. So you'll get it there. Yeah. So yeah. I guess the second one is actually not an assertion for this. This the last one should append one because we're not actually looking uh,
Yeah,
at
don't
it
really care about
appending.
the content of the event, but just the fact that we only have one.
Yeah, should have only one event. So that should be also valuable here. Yes, and we're green, green.
Good.
Cool. Okay, so we have five assertions and two scenarios specified. And I guess we can start thinking about moving this forward a little bit. So, should we take a look at the little drawing?
Yeah. Or you can have a look since I can't really see.
Yeah, yeah. Some technical issues today because
Yes.
so Sindre can't really see what I'm seeing. But what we have on the drawing is okay, we have the registering author. So what I can do, Sindre, is I can share this board with you, right? So I can give you this copy board and I can give you that link. That will be helpful for you. I'm pretty sure. So we have now the registering author and the listing. And the natural next step in my head is okay, we now have authors and we need to have books that are basically associated with these authors, right? So think of it as now we're creating the inventory. So what we have in the drawing is this slice called adding books. And it has a dialog box where we want to capture the title, the ISBN, and the dropdown for what author to actually add. So the add books to inventory command will then typically include the ISBN. So ISBN from what we just added there. Of course, it will need, well, I don't know why we don't have title here, but title will also be a property where we would be capturing. And of course, the author ID. And one thing that you typically want to have in an inventory is the number of books that you're actually adding to the inventory, because you normally don't go as a library. I would imagine you don't go and buy or order one book. Oh, we want one copy of this book in our library. You will have multiple copies, one or more. And I would typically produce an event with book added to inventory, or and this is where we well domain specifics might be so the name book might not be correct here when I start thinking about it because it's not actually one book. It's more like you're adding a title as a book title to your inventory, and that has a number or something. But that's yeah, a little bit semantics.
Could be like title added to catalog or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the semantics as you said it, or the domain language. We are not librarians. We are developers.
Conan the librarian. Oh, yes. So let's. Well, I'm adding you to the team, but now we don't actually need this right now. So
Yeah.
we. Wow, Miro wanted to do a lot of stuff there. So we can start here, and well, we don't need to be perfect on the domain. So I guess we can just stick with what we have, and we can improve on this later. So if we go to the code for this, so let's close down what we had. We must remember, of course, to bring back our development environment. Yes. Whoa. Oh. I have messed up this. There we go. And if we go and look at authors, that's done. We now want to go and create a, we'll call it inventory, right? So, right, well, we called it in the drawing, we called it adding. So we can call it, well, let's call it adding then. And uh, in the lack of a better term,
Oh, you forgot to commit the specifications.
oh, I can commit. I can commit. Do you,
Yes.
yes. So actually, I've done more. So this is basically cleanup and then fixing correct Docker image for Chronicle,
Yeah.
and
And
then
while you're
specifications.
doing that, I'm updating the given when thens for the registering author slides.
That's good because we completely forgot to actually do that in the drawing,
Yeah.
and that's an important thing to actually show as well. Typically, in an
Yeah.
event model, we would do this,
Yeah.
create.
Yeah. You're not actually doing proper event modeling unless you actually do the modeling first. That's kind of a thing with and that's kind of the philosophy behind the event modeling. Is that the model is before the actual writing of the code.
So what we can then do is, so let's say we do a happy path and not so happy path. So author already exists. We can then do, that would be the,
Yeah, simple as that.
yes.
Don't really need the arrows as it is
Oh,
kind of implicit in this view.
yeah, that's true. So this just basically, well, visualizes what we just did. Given we have an author registered with John Doe. When we try to register John Doe, well, it's already registered. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
you can't get into more simple than that.
No, Absolutely not. So back to registering books into our inventory. So adding something to the inventory. Right. So if we follow our pattern so far, where we actually put things in the same file, namespace, library, uh, inventory. Thing. So we would need a command for doing that, right? So add book title maybe to inventory. And author ID, right? And we would have a man handler, in our case, a what we call it, controller for that. So we would have a route for that, which would then be inventory, add, and we would have a method like this. We would then do something like this. And take a dependency to event log. And again, what we would do, we will do this using the transactional. And the reason we do that is that we have infrastructure. So that means it will do, let's say we have in this unit of work, we have more than one event that goes in. It will do them in a transaction, and either they all go or they don't go at all. In addition to that, there is a infrastructure piece from Chronicle that actually picks up together with the application model that will automatically put those, well, if there are any constraint errors, if there's any errors, so they will have end up on the command result. If you don't do the transactional one, you will have to actually do that yourself. It returns then an append result, and you would need to actually take a look at the append result and do whatever you want to do as a consequence. So we like to rely on the infrastructure for this. So we just basically go and do this. And what we then need is what we want, well, like to do is basically also create all these, um, like we create these concepts for the different things. So instead of using like we have a string here, we don't really
I
like those. Oh, you're
I'm
actually,
already ahead of you.
oh, you're way ahead of me. Nice, 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 nice.
Yeah, we are pair programming.
Exactly. So what we can do in addition to book title is also, let's say we have, well, we could actually use the ISBN. ISBN is a unique identifier. So instead of using what we traditionally been using is like GUID for representing a unique thing, we can now use the ISBN in this case, right? So we can do book title here, and we can use the ISBN. And that means instead of, since event source ID is basically just a string, what we can actually then do is on the append, we can use the ISBN as the unique identifier, as the event source ID,
Hmm.
which means we don't need the ISBN on the event.
No, it is now implicit.
So we can do this count. Well, we want to have a count on the command, I guess. So don't need to be a default value. So we can do command dot count, right? And we await that thing. Or if we want to be sassy, we just do a lambda like this. We don't need async. And we should be pretty good to go. So the reason I did value, the inner value, so concepts have a inner value, which is the actual primitive type. So I could either do like, oh, I want to cast it to a string, and then it would also automatically be casted to an event source ID, or I could do dot value. In many regards, maybe this is more readable because dot value is kind of an internal thing, really.
Mm.
So what Syndra has done in the meantime as well is create the event type. And we need to remember have this attribute, otherwise it will not be recognized as an event type, and we will have trouble going forward. So I'm going to anticipate reuse of book title and ISBN across the, let's say, feature called inventory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extract these as things that will be moved up in the namespace for reuse purpose, like this.
Mm.
But now we basically have what we need.
Yeah, we have the
Well,
slice
we have the
except
slice.
for the wireframe.
Yes, and we also forgot to do uh, HTTP post so
Yeah.
that we get our front-end code generated. And there we go.
Mm.
So now we have a front-end code, add book title to inventory command, and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
So do we want to just add quickly user interface to this?
Yeah, sure, why not? We can do that in 8 minutes.
I love copy pasting. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to do authors, and I'm just going to copy that into inventory. I'm going to call it inventory. And I'm going to rename this inventory. And of course, we don't have a listing yet, but I want to do so very similar to the whole thing. I'm just going to go and do add that dialogue as well and call it add book dialogue or something, add book, just call it that. So let's call it add book. This is called add book title to inventory. Real quick, I'm just quick and dirty going to copy paste a lot of stuff here. What we have is we have two things we want to actually we have three things, right? We have name, or I would say title, right? So let's call it title, set title. And then we have, we don't need to specify that. But then we have the second one is the ISBN, right? So ISBN, and then set ISBN. And then we do have this, we have count, right? So count, set count. And we have author, right? So author ID, set author ID. Then we have this command, register like this. So what we want to have as inputs, we might not get time to do the author ID dropdown, but that's fine. We'll do name and or title, and subtitle. We'll do ISBN, set the ISBN. We'll do count, and then set
Well,
count, and also need count, and then ISBN. And we have a dialogue, I think.
wouldn't the author ID dropdown be, you don't have a dropdown component, maybe?
Yeah, I do, but I don't want to mess around with it right now since we have very
Yeah, but
limited
I
time.
was just thinking, so we have a really easy way for getting all of the authors.
Yeah,
So it's just putting it in the dropdown. So
yeah, exactly. So we'll see. So we have ISBN, and then author ID will be, but it's going to be a GUID. So this needs to be. Uh,
Can't we can't we just get all of the authors and then just default to the first one for now? This is just to show like how that it's simple to do that.
yeah, sure, sure. So we can do authors, and then we can reuse the
Get
query, which is all authors, I guess.
get all.
It's called get all. Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
a pretty
get
bad name.
all.
That's a pretty bad name.
Yeah, it's in the authors listing context, so you can just choose to rename it
Yeah,
in here.
like this.
Nothing nothing wrong with doing that.
No, no, no. So we can then go and do authors result. Hang on. So data, I mean. So we can do actually just the first one, and then like this. Okay, that should actually work. Then back to inventory. We now need to go and get the ad book. You've hooked this up already. Nice. And then in our app TSX, we need an item in the menu which says inventory, inventory, and the path for inventory, like so, and then inventory. Yes, that might be kind of it. Of course, we're not running right now the
No.
front end. We're not running anything actually. So we
Yeah.
have and we run the front end. Did we have authors, we have inventory. Right. So someone, right? An inventory, a book, uh, title, blah. We don't have any. And we should now in the database see stuff, right? Let's see that it actually didn't fail. Um, so it doesn't fail doing it. So it actually does the command. And then, hang on, I don't have the compass open.
Or the workbench.
Yeah, that's true. So if we look here, we didn't, yeah, we don't have a projection. So, so that basically, so if I open the workbench, we should be able to see the event at least. So, and there we have book added to inventory. Yes. So that was
That,
pretty fast, wasn't it? We could do the listing in probably T minus 1 minute or something,
uh, sure.
uh, if we wanted to. So listing, and then have a listing.cs, and pretty sure I can just almost copy all of this and then do books and then do book. So what did we say? So ISBN being the ID in this case. Uh,
We don't have the book read model though.
no, it's here now. So
Oh yeah.
so title, from book added to inventory. We just drop this. Get all.
I think we're good.
And then TSX, this would actually then go. So we need to build, of course, to get the
Yeah.
read model and query. And now we have that. And this should be no books. And if we go back to the inventory, we can now, yeah, you've already done that. Yes. So we might actually have something going here. You don't need to save. That helps. That helps a lot. So now it has no books because we haven't actually produced, yeah, we haven't restarted and created the projection stuff. So, but we should have, mm, yeah, we need to restart the backend, of course, because we now have a new projection that it doesn't know
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, so the
And
Chronicle has to register the artifacts, as we call them.
yeah, and it actually worked, but we have, so there we go. There's our book, which is kind of nice. And again, if I add something, hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, it just magically shows up here. So I think that's kind of neat. In under 10 minutes, we created 2 more slices with a full front end. I would call that a good day.
Yeah, that's productive.
Productive. Cool, cool. I guess that's kind of a wrap for this. So thanks to anyone who's been watching. And I guess we'll be back with more.
Yeah, next week.
Yes. So have a good one.